Back with another 5-Minute Friday. For this 5-Minute Friday, I want to continue on the list of questions that I got. And this one kind of runs along the same lines of suitable materials. And I kind of brought up a few things with it in the last one, but it is, what are some of the pros and cons to TIG welding? So, let's put 5 minutes on the clock and change to some sunglasses. That's better. So pros and cons to TIG welding. One of the things that I mentioned in the last episode, the con for it, it's kind of a big one in a manufacturing production environment, is its speed. It's a very slow process, or it can be a very slow process compared to MIG welding. Now, comparing it to stick, it's probably a little bit faster, but if you're doing any production work or like a handrail or something, you saw JD just posted a video recently of doing a handrail job that he wanted to TIG weld, and he was saying during it that it was just taking too much time. And when you're in business for yourself, time is money. You know, like, you got to get a job done. And if you don't get it done fast enough and you lose money on it, some of the other cons to it is it's a little bit more finicky. You need to clean the material. You need to do different things that are, again, going to take more time. You're going to have to wipe down the material a little bit more, clean off the scaling a little bit more. You're going to have to do just a few more steps in your cleaning process to make it really, really work well or work better. Where other processes, you can kind of get away with a few things here and there. So another con with TIG welding would be it's a little bit more technical. Like, I don't want to say it takes more skill or anything like that. It's just there's more going on with TIG welding versus MIG or stick. I always kind of equate it to like flying a helicopter. Especially if you're using a positioner, it's like every appendage is doing something. And with MIG, you guide with this hand, pull the trigger with this hand, and go. But that to me is a little bit of a con, because it takes a little bit more finesse, it takes a little bit more time, again, it takes a little bit more technique to get things dialed in. Some of the pros to TIG welding are less cleanup, or less post cleanup. The welds are smaller. You may be able to control warping a little bit more. You might get a little bit more warping because you're going a little bit slower. That could go either way. To me, the welds are nicer looking depending on what you're doing. You do see a lot of the guys on Instagram that can do, the outside corner joints with MIG that are absolutely beautiful. But at the same time, you see people that do outside corner joints with TIG that are absolutely beautiful. So that's kind of a pro and a con on both sides of it. The biggest pro for me is what I was talking about in the last 5-Minute Friday, was its versatility. That there's really not a whole lot you can't do with it besides thicker, really, really, really thick materials effectively. You can, but it's a bit of a pain. So that's kind of a con. But like I said, the biggest pro for me is its ability to just turn it on, put it on AC or DC, grab the right filler wire, and go. Another pro to it is, to me, it's a pro that it's technical, that you do have to have a little bit more skill, a little bit more finesse, a little bit more, a little more things going on, because I like that. That's my kind of personality. I enjoy that kind of aspect of things. That's why, like with MIG, I kind of think it's boring. You just kind of pull the trigger and, TIG, you're doing more stuff. It's like driving a stick shift. There's more going on, and if you like that kind of stuff, hey, it's great. If you don't, man, well, each to their own. But that's one of the things that I do like about TIG is the technical aspect of it, that you can really dial in and make everything just right, or you can work on really, really thin parts, and if you have your techniques down just right, it welds really nice and easy. Where if you're trying to MIG weld really, really thin parts, I can't say that it's hard, or I haven't done a lot of MIG on thin parts, so I'm not going to say you can't do it, but it's definitely, I don't know, it's questionable to me. I'd rather take it. But you've got people that are MIG welding body panels and stuff like that all over the place that are, just so I mean, it can be done. Like I always say with welding, there's no such thing as it never can be done, or you can't do it. You just don't know how, or you don't know the tricks of the trade to get it done. But like I said, there are many pros to TIG welding, and there are a few cons to TIG welding. Another con that I was just thinking of, there's a little bit more pricey for consumables, and just in general, the machines are a little bit more pricey, but they're a little bit more capable too. So get what you pay for. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that kind of answers that question a little bit in a nutshell. If you have a question for a future 5 Minute Friday, leave it in the comments below, or shoot me an email at roy@welderskills.com, and we'll catch you next week.